We are here today for one reason, because the American people are watching their leaders. They're watching their leaders at every level of government, and they're watching those who choose to protect illegal alien criminals over their own law-abiding citizens. It's not rhetoric. It's not hyperbole. It's not a Republican talking point. It's just fact. Let me be very
Right out of the gate, this hearing isn't easing into the topic. It's going straight for the biggest political issue in America, border security. Notice how the speaker frames the debate as public safety rather than politics. But here's a question for you. Do you think immigration policy should be judged primarily by security outcomes, humanitarian concerns, or both? Let me know in the comments.
clear. This is not about politics. This is about public safety. This is about law and order. This is about whether the United States of America still has the will to enforce its own laws. We're coming out of the largest border crisis in American history, and the American people continue to live with the consequences every single day. During Joe Biden's presidency, more than 8 million aliens crossed the southwest border illegally, and that's at a minimum. There are probably many more. There are a lot of numbers out there, but we know at least that many. 6 million of them were released into the country. They were given legal advice. They were given food. They were given education. They were given transportation. They were given shelter, and in some cases, even debit cards, all on the American taxpayer's dime. And at least 1.9 million gotaways crossed the border and escaped law enforcement altogether. Didn't even know who they all are and where they all are living. The open southwest border created a drug crisis, a human smuggling crisis, and a violent crime crisis. Unfortunately, none of this was by accident. It happened because the Biden-Harris administration chose chaos over control, ideology over enforcement of the law, and politics over the American people. The numbers just don't show a crisis. They show a full-scale collapse of our sovereignty, our security, and the very idea that a nation without borders.
Now we're reaching the heart of the argument. The claim isn't just that mistakes were made. It's that the policies were intentionally designed this way. That's a much stronger accusation because it shifts the debate from competence to intent. And whenever politicians start arguing about motives instead of outcomes, things usually get a lot more heated.
Is still a nation at all. The worst part of it all is that it just didn't happen. It was designed. On day one of his presidency, the Biden-Harris administration canceled border wall construction, day one. It gutted the Remain in Mexico policy. It abused immigration patrol authorities to release hundreds, thousands of illegal aliens into our communities. It virtually stopped enforcing immigration laws on the interior of the United States, which resulted in more than a 60% increase in ICE arrests during the first few months of the administration. And the Biden-Harris administration turned a blind eye to the spread of violent gangs like Tren de Agua and MS-13 across the country. The result? Terrorists on watch lists entering our country, criminals with prior convictions for violent crimes such as assault, rape, murder, being released instead of removed, and an immigration enforcement system overwhelmed, underfunded, and pushed well beyond its limits.
Congressional Democrats have engaged in oversight activities of immigration facilities across the country, from Florida, where a 44-year-old Haitian woman died in ICE custody, to Newark, New Jersey, where 3 of our Democratic colleagues visited an immigration detention facility to ensure the humane treatment of detainees. This wasn't about going in and breaking nobody out, y'all, especially when there were cameras rolling everywhere. That's not what they were there to do.
Hold on. Did you catch that shift? The discussion has moved from border policy to congressional oversight and potential criminal charges against a member of Congress. This is where the story turns from an immigration debate into a constitutional power struggle between different branches of government.
Now, in a breathtaking act of executive obstruction of congressional oversight and the unprecedented weaponization of the Department of Justice, we have an interim U.S. attorney for New Jersey who for years has argued in court that Donald Trump is above the law. She has announced criminal charges against Congresswoman McIver for, quote, impeding and interfering with law enforcement. However, our power as members of Congress to conduct oversight is found in the Constitution and federal law. In fact, federal law explicitly prohibits DHS from, quote, preventing a member of Congress from entering for the purpose of conducting oversight any facility operated by or for the Department of Homeland Security used to detain or otherwise house aliens, or to make any temporary modification at any such facility that in any way alters what is observed by a visiting member of Congress.
Here's the legal argument being presented. The Speaker is citing federal law and constitutional protections that lawmakers often rely on when conducting oversight investigations. Whether those protections apply in this specific situation is exactly the kind of question that can end up being fought over in court. And that's where politics meets legal interpretation.
It is against the law. Full stop. Separately, the court has consistently held that the speech and debate clause of the Constitution protects individual members from prosecution for legislative acts, including, quote, fact-finding, field investigations, and information gathering. The court has consistently held that the primary purpose of the speech and debate clause is to, quote, prevent intimidation by the executive and before a possibly hostile judiciary. So let's call this for what it is. This administration is criminalizing legislative oversight, and the Republicans on this committee are helping them to do so. Rep. McIver didn't engage in interference. It was ICE that engaged in interference while members of Congress attempted to conduct legitimate oversight of ICE facilities. Everyone, whether you are American or not, should be deeply disturbed and worried about Trump's abuse of power. They're attacking universities for teaching things they don't like. They're attacking law firms for representing clients that they don't like. This hearing and these charges are an attempt at political intimidation. The 3 members in Newark were exercising their constitutional duties to check an out-of-control executive branch. This entire situation happened because of the unjust arrest of Mayor Baraka. And not only were the members invited in and given a tour of the facility, this was after they so-called had broken the law. Now, I don't know about y'all, but where I'm from in Texas, I can tell you that I'm not.
This is one of those moments where the Speaker uses humor and a real-world analogy to make a complicated legal argument easier to understand. The point being made is simple. If a crime truly occurred, why would officials continue cooperating afterward? It's a rhetorical question designed to challenge the opposing narrative, and it's likely to get strong reaction from both supporters and critics.
Used to having law enforcement see a crime happen right in front of their faces and then say, never mind, we'll just go about our business. In fact, why don't you go ahead and come on in? Come on in, we gonna do this tour because, oops, we did make a mistake because technically by law, we are supposed to allow you in. And wait a minute, while you're here, do y'all want something to drink? We got refreshments for you as well. And then after you conduct this oversight and you actually gave a clean bill of health because you were never there to disrupt, you were always there to do your duty. They came out and they said, everything looks good. And then it wasn't at that moment that they decided to arrest members. It wasn't the next day. In fact, even as I sit here today, no member has been arrested. Now you tell me how many times you can see the robber go in the bank, steal the money, and then they say, well, never mind, we'll think about this later. That is what you call politicizing. And that is what we are here to talk about is wrong. But we got a few other issues with ICE right now, so I'm gonna get to them in a second. The DOJ, as I said already, has already dropped the charges against the mayor. Look, they're coming after everyone who uses their constitutional rights and duties to speak truth to power. The press, the courts, and now members of Congress. And to be perfectly honest, I had my team do the research. Under no other president, Democrat or Republican, can we find an incident where they have tried to arrest members of Congress. This is absolutely absurd that they were out there simply doing their duty. We have never seen ICE act in this way. In fact, it's not less oversight that we need right now, it's more. In fact, I'm gonna tell you, actually, I'm not.
And that's the setup for what's coming next. We've heard accusations of border failures, claims of executive overreach, debates over congressional authority, and questions about how IC handled the situation. Now the speaker says, roll the tape, which usually means they're about to present evidence they believe supports their case. The big question is, will the footage clarify what happened or create even more controversy? Stay tuned.
I'm not gonna tell you. I can show you better than I can tell you. Roll the tape.